This program was made possible by Law Office of Suren Israelian.
Բարև ձեզ հարգելի բարեկամներ, Սփյուռքի ձայնը հեռուստահանդեսը դարձյալ ձեզ հետ է։ Անցյալ շաբաթվա ամենակարևոր միջոցառումներից մեկը Aurora Dialogue երկխոսություն միջոցառումն էր։ Սիրով ուզում եմ ձեզ ներկայացնել մեր պատրաստած ակնարկը այդ միջոցառման մասին։
In New York City, the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative, in partnership with the National September 11th Memorial and Museum, hosted distinguished members of the humanitarian community to explore the drivers of human solidarity during the Aurora Dialogues. The event was titled Solidarity Beyond Borders, Stepping Up When Others Step Back, and focused on what moves people to risk their lives and stand up for others in challenging situations.
So the Aurora Initiative is now in its third year, and it's expanding globally through our dialogues, Aurora Dialogues. We had one in Berlin already after having 2 years of the dialogues in Armenia. These are dialogues that bring together humanitarian specialists, governments, and all those concerned about the key issues today. In particular, refugee crisis has been the focus in Berlin. And now we're here in the 9/11 Memorial and Museum to discuss with the folks in the museum and the community in New York about issues of the experience of survivors, the spirit that causes people to save those of others, and what can be done to encourage and support the work of those saviors and the journey of the survivors. And so we see a path forward where this year we will also hold dialogues in Moscow, in London, in Buenos Aires, and expand globally so that we create the awareness needed for this movement to go to a whole nother level.
The dialogues began with words from National September 11 Memorial and Museum President Alice Greenwald. In her opening remarks, Alice Greenwald said that they are honored to join the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative in promoting the generosity of the human spirit, as this is also a positive legacy of the September 11th, 2001 attacks.
I cannot think of a more appropriate location for a program focused on the empathic roots of heroism than the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. You are sitting here at the epicenter of 2 terrorist attacks, the first of which, the World Trade Center bombing that killed 6 individuals and an unborn child, was perpetrated 25 years ago this past Monday. And 8 years later, the World Trade Center, as you know, would again be targeted in the most devastating attack on domestic soil by a foreign entity in the history of this nation, resulting in the murder of 2,977 innocent people. The history we document here, the stories we tell, are filled with tragedy and heartbreak. Against this backdrop of grief, we also tell stories of courage and resilience, of coworkers helping coworkers, strangers coming to the aid of strangers, first responders running into danger to rescue and assist.
One of the co-founders of the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative, Mr. Vartan Gregorian, who is the president of the Carnegie Foundation, noted in his opening remarks that they brought action along with remembrance to thank the world and to show that sacrifice matters, witnessing and goodness matters, justice matters, and human beings matter.
But most importantly, it wins human decency and awaken the conscience of humanity. The subject matter of this prize is not one of financial reward. It's 1,100,000. 100,000 goes to the recipient. 1 million goes to what recipient has been inspired from sources and what organization. So that in itself also recreates additional giving. I like to end up with a quote, one of my favorite people, Theodor Adorno, not many people know, philosopher, warned us a long time ago the fact that forgetting is inhuman because men's accumulated suffering is forgotten. The historical trace of things, words, colors, and sounds is always the trace of past suffering. As soon as all tradition is extinguished, inhumanity begins. We cannot assassinate memory nor extinguish it. But remembering is not enough. Out of remembering comes from action. And what Ruben and Dubar have brought, action, along with remembrance, to thank America, to thank the world, whether it's France and Norway even I found. We have to witness everywhere where good men and good women, good nuns, good doctors, good shepherds, came, lived with Armenians, died with Armenians, rescued the Armenians. And that's why we're here, to show that sacrifice matters, witnessing or goodness matters, justice matters, human beings matter.
Their remarks were followed by a keynote presentation from Dr. Philip Zimbardo, famed psychologist, professor emeritus at Stanford University, and founder and president of the Heroic Imagination Project, a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting heroism in everyday life. The address focused on the psychological reasoning in response to heroism, highlighting the ways in which people can learn to step up while others step back.
So what is a hero? Why do we need heroes? Heroes help us shift the norm from passive compliance, accepting the situation as it is, to pro-social action. Heroes transform compassion, which is a cognitive, emotional state, and empathy, into action. Action is what changes the world. True heroes put their best self forward in service to all of humanity. Heroes are the force of good that opposes evil in all of its many forms, both perpetrators of the evil of action and also the evil of inaction, not doing the right thing when you could.
The panel discussion was moderated by Washington Post columnist and associate editor David Ignatius.
Well, I've traveled to Armenia for each of the last two Aurora Prize initiatives. I've been fortunate to be asked to be the host of the events that have been broadcast on Armenian television. I was very proud of the opportunity to do that, and I do think this is a prize that takes the very best of what we think of as our Armenian heritage and gives it to the world, gives it to others. I'm looking forward to being back in Yerevan again. I've always been proud of my Armenian heritage and looking for a way in which I could express my pride in being an Armenian in a way that was positive. And when I met Ruben Vardanyan, I found that there was a way through this idea he had of reaching out to others, of not thinking about our own suffering and this dark past that all Armenians feel and struggle with, but looking forward, and as Ruben and the Aurora Project put it, giving to others, not so much focusing on our own pain, but thinking about the pain of other people and how we can help them. And I love that idea. That really spoke to me in the heart. So I've been involved now for 3 years, and it's something that I really feel proud of, because I feel that the spirit we have as people of Armenian background, whether they live in Yerevan or in Washington, D.C. like me, there's something that we have and we know about life, and the idea is, how do we give it back? How do we make it real in our world?
The panelists included 2016 Aurora Prize laureate Marguerite Maggie Barankitse, who spoke about her traumatic experiences during the Burundian Civil War, where she, as a Tutsi, tried to hide 72 of her closest Hutu neighbors to keep them safe from persecution, and was forced to watch as her neighbors were discovered and executed. She received the award in 2016 for her humanitarian work, in spite of the horror she experienced. Focusing on youth to build the new generation, Barankitse has saved roughly 30,000 children as the founder of Maison Shalom, a children's home and support center, and has treated more than 80,000 patients by founding the Rima Hospital in 2008. The panel also featured Lieutenant Bill Keegan, the retired Port Authority Police Department lieutenant in Special Ops, who was the night operations commander of the World Trade Center rescue recovery teams at Ground Zero from September 11, 2001 until the end of the recovery, which was marked on May 30, 2002, when the last steel column from the original World Trade Center was ceremoniously removed. He spoke about recovering the victims and sustaining the recovery team's mission of compassion and selflessness through his organization called Heart 9/11, which utilizes first responders' skills to respond to contemporary disasters and rebuild in hard-hit areas.
The Armenian Humanitarian Initiative is so important, and in some ways like 9/11, in that it's trying to take forward the lessons learned, the suffering and pain that the Armenians suffered through the genocide period, and trying to teach the world what lessons we need to learn from that time so that it never happens again. If we don't share these lessons, if we don't put ourselves out, we will never make our civilizations and societies better. And that's what's critical about what the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative is endeavoring to do.
The third panelist was human rights activist and Enough Project founding director John Prendergast, who discussed his work utilizing the influence of modern celebrities and focusing global attention on humanitarian crises.
The Aurora Prize to us is very, very important because what it does, unlike anything else, highlights the idea of an upstander, the idea that anyone in a situation of extreme stress where people's lives are at risk, where there's an extraordinary challenge, humanitarian or human rights challenge to be met, that people of all backgrounds, no matter where they come from, no matter what their experience has been, they can become upstanders. They can stand up in the face of these challenges and save lives and protect lives for the betterment of humanity. And the idea that these finalists can have their stories told to the entire world and inspire people to take these kinds of actions. And then they can take the resources, that the money that has been given as part of the prize, and give it back to organizations that are doing this incredible work. I mean, the ripple effect just keeps going outward and outward and outward. More and more people's lives are impacted. More and more people are inspired to do great things. So the Aurora Prize to us is a very, very central part of the overall strategy to make a difference in this world today.
At the end of the event, Nubar Afeyan delivered his closing remarks and said how important and symbolic it is to come together and share the results of some of the work that they're doing. Nubar Afeyan donated a copy of Haik Demoyan's recently published book titled Armenian Legacy in America, a 400-year heritage. Demoyan is the director of the Armenian Genocide Museum Institute, and the book is dedicated to the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first Armenian to America, Martin the Armenian, who was brought to Jamestown, Virginia in 1618. The book contains more than 2,000 images of artifacts, documents, and rare photos showing the history and legacy of the Armenian American community.
Aurora-ի մրցանակաբաշխությունը բացառիկ առաքելություն ունեցող նախաձեռնություն է։ Բացառիկ է այն առումով, որ այստեղ փոխվում են շատ դերեր, շեշտադրումներ։ Մենք խոսելով ցեղասպանության մասին ոչ միայն սկում ենք, ոչ միայն հիշում ենք, այլ նաև փորձում ենք ավելի բարձր մակարդակի վրա երախտագիտություն հայտնել նրանց, ովքեր օգնեցին մեզ, որպեսզի մենք վերապրենք։ Սա է առաքելության կարևոր մասերից մեկը, որ մենք չենք պարփակվում հայկական պատմության, մեր ողբերգության եւ մեր հերոսական պատումի մեջ, այլ փորձում ենք այն վերաձևակերպել եւ որպես ուղերձ տալ ամբողջ մարդկությանը, մեր օրերում եւ ապագա սերունդների համար։
Founded on behalf of the survivors of the Armenian Genocide and in gratitude to their saviors, the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative is an 8-year commitment from 2015 to 2023 in remembrance of the 8 years of the Armenian Genocide from 1915 to 1923. Its aim is to support people and promote global projects that tackle the needs of the most helpless and destitute, and to do so at great risk. The initiative is the vision of philanthropists Vartan Grigoryan, Nubar Afeyan, and Ruben Vartanyan, who have been joined by more than 200 new supporters and partners.
If I will look back and say what is the most successful measurement, I can look backwards and see what was done during the last 3 years. As in my meeting in 2016, after the first Aurora ceremony in Yerevan, I was walking to my home, and in the street I met the guy, ordinary person, ordinary Armenian, who came to me and said, "Ruben, I want to say thank you, what you did." I said, "My pleasure." And he said, "Thank you not for George Clooney, not for the fantastic event. Thank you because I'm first time feeling proud to be Armenian." I think for me it was the best that I can get, what I was dreaming, to get the ordinary Armenian person who will feel difficult life, no easy job, not very big, not very rich, but he felt differently about himself. He felt he is not anymore victim. He felt he is a proud Armenian, and I found it's the best what I can dream about this project.
The next Aurora Dialogues is slated to take place in Moscow this April, leading up to the annual Aurora Dialogues in Yerevan this June, as part of a weekend of events culminating in the presentation of the 2018 Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity, a $1 million award honoring those who risk themselves for the benefit of others.